I know. Let's not even think about it. It's somewhere sitting there. Well, perhaps part of that is the nature of the book itself. The fact that it deals, let's say, with more personal material than perhaps the last one.
I think one reason too is that it was reviewed by younger people who were coming fresher to my work without older prejudices. Because a lot of my career has been conducted, as it were, in a thicket of political animosity, people with fixed views about the world. And now then there are younger people who've gone through all those attitudes of the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. When I began to write in the mid-50s and first published my first book in 57, I was amazed that people thought it was very bad of me to be a comic writer. And if you were writing about Wogs and Coons and people like that, you had to be very, very solemn. Mm-hmm. They made, therefore, the prejudices entirely on their side. Do you see what I mean? The only people who could be comic then were people like French people or English writers or Americans of a certain class and group. Do you understand the point I'm making, Mel? Mm-hmm. They're denying one a wholeness.
Yeah.
In the name of a liberal attitude, a humane attitude, in the name of, if that is clear.
But by being comic, did they think that you were making light of it, that you were treating it superficially? Is that the charge? Or?
No, that one should never make jokes about Indians.
Yeah.
Remember, a man from South Africa, said to me about one of my major books, House of This House. He's still around as a journalist. That he just couldn't endure reading the book because it was very, very wrong and wicked of me to write a comic book about Indians. Mm-hmm. I said, why do you say that? He said, I come from South Africa. I'm concerned about Indians. I do not find them funny.
Mm-hmm. And this has changed now, you think?
Well, that kind of old-fashioned thing is now dead, really, because yes, I think it has changed. I think certainly the younger people. Younger people tend to be, when they've gone through their Marxist nonsense too, haven't they, a little bit? They go through so many silly little phases. But all these, my point is that one has really had to put up with a political attitude to one's work.
Well, I wonder if that's equally true in America for you. It seems to me that generally the reception has been very good in America. And in fact, in the last few years, many more of the so-called establishment critics have been the ones, in fact, who have dealt with your work.
Yes.
Elizabeth Hardwicz and so on.
Yes.
Sort of the heavyweights, let's say, of America,
yes.
as it were, of American criticism, have dealt quite, and Kazin and others, dealt quite seriously with your work.
Yes.
Whether that's different in America than it is here.
But remember, there's a great gap. You must know that I had immense trouble even finding a publisher in America.
At what point? I mean, early on?
Right through.
But once you had Gottlieb, though, Gottlieb was a...
He took me on in 1969, 12 years after I began to publish.
No.
And it was not, I don't think anything was done with the books for a little while, because I think you had Vietnam as well, you had your own interests. And I, after all, nobody would take a writer like with my subject matter seriously in the 50s or the 60s. It was not considered serious. Times have changed now.
When did the change come, would you say? I mean, could you mark a point in which people began taking your attitudes more seriously and confronting the books as they are? The 70s? I mean, it has been was it 10 years ago or longer?
I think about the early 70s, yes. The early 70s. So I'd been around for quite a while before I was aware of that happening.
Well, I wonder perhaps in America whether Gorillas was a turning point when the critics, as such, began taking you in a much broader way.
I suppose because of the black thing,
Yeah.
it might have touched people more personally and directly than the other work.
Yeah.
It might be that. I don't know, but one can't read for other people or understand other people. The point of all this is that writers want to be judged really as writers, and one has carried the burden of being judged politically. I paid that view so long. I was rather refreshed this time in England to find that I was being judged as a writer. People had gone through the political side, and some of that was less cause for anguish.
But as I just wanted not to carry too far, but I wonder whether some of that wasn't caused by the subject of the book itself. That in the first half you're dealing with your own personal life up to a certain age, and in the second half you're dealing with, well, in a sense, your own personal life at a certain further age.
I don't.
And it's less shall we say, a reporter's or a recorder's journey so much as something quite interior.
Yes, I don't know.
To you.
I don't know. I think it wouldn't prevent them getting angry about it.
No.
If they'd wanted to be angry, it wouldn't, yes.
If they wanted to say, oh, there he goes again, they would say it.
Yes.
No.
Like dessert? Yes. Yeah. What would you like?
What do you have?
Why don't you have a mixture of the both? Can you arrange that for us? All right.
But I was wondering at the start
Yes.
whether you, before you sat down to do this as a book, whether you conceived of it as a book or, in fact,
no, it was
an article and then another article.
Absolutely, as I said, Richard Locke was pressing me for something, and he worked pertinaciously on me. I was far too tired after writing my Islam book to even think of any work. And then I also had an illness, you know. So I really wasn't interested, but Richard was very pertinacious. And then one day, in Oslo of all places, this idea came to me that I might go back to the old material. I was in Oslo.
What were you in Oslo for?
I know, my book was.
Would you like some coffee?
Please,
Yes.
I was in Oslo. My book was the book club choice of all. I mean, can you imagine? Apparently, if you're the book club choice in Norway, your work is in almost every other house.
Is it read in every other house? Though?
I don't know whether it's read. But the book goes into almost every house. And it was an experiment for them. So.
And you were on a tour of Norway?
I went to Oslo. It was winter. And I was so tired. I'd given an interview to somebody. Then I'd go and lie down in my bed, which had a screen all around it. And during one of these spells of lying down, I was thinking about writing and really about the dreadful, what one was doing and all these questions about oneself and one's life. And my thoughts went to that old idea, which I had abandoned before. And I had the shape of it. The shape of it came to me in a matter of seconds. That was also very nice. And so I telephoned Richard from Oslo, unwilling to put anything down on paper, thinking that if I tried to outline this idea in words, I was going to lose the connections. I was going to lose the shape. Much better to keep it in my head and emotionally. So I spoke it to him. And he's very encouraging. He's very good. And then having written it, being very moved by it, consumed by it, I gave the idea to Richard in November or December of '81. Did the traveling and began to write it. I'd forgotten, but it was about 6 or 7 months before I finished the writing. And then I made this journey, and the thing is, when you do a piece of writing that moves you, you're impregnated with the mood of it, the mood of your writing. You tend to do two things. Well, certainly you tend to do one thing. You tend to want to begin another, which is just like the one you've just written. You know, one book tends to be me to write immediately after. You tend to do a repeat. And then I just thought of going there. And I went there, but with that, with all that I've written. And so the connections are all the connections of mood, because as Tony Pearl says, he reviewed Anthony Pearl, he saw, many connections between the pieces. Mm-hmm. And many of them are not conscious, if you understand. They're just unconscious.
Had you decided to end the first piece where it was? I mean, there was supposed to be a young man's story, which is quite this.
Yes.
But it would end with the first stories.
You see, it's not an autobiography, not an account of what I did.
You can't do Thursday.
Black. It's an account of just that. All the things that conspired, or that encouraged one to be a writer of a particular sort. Not an account of one's family life or family background or anything. So there are no portraits of people. There's no my grandmother was a handsome old lady, etc.
Although there is a portrait of your father, to a certain extent.
Never physically described.
I was going to say the closest thing to it seemed to me that book of your father's work that you brought out and wrote the introduction to the other year, that some of the things seem to converge a little bit.
Yes.
And maybe, in fact, the portrait in my mind of your father, I bring to it not only this story, but also material from the other one.
Yes, but a lot of that would have drawn on the same research.
But clearly then you must have felt that shall we say, that formative period was important and conclusive, I suppose, and didn't need any follow-up to describe how you wrote the further books or how they eventually got published or whatever else, that it was the actual genesis of the writer's art.
That is the subject. That is the subject. Otherwise, you could easily end up writing an autobiography, really, which is really things you should be telling your wife and nobody else,
Well, a lot of people put that down. I mean, that's what sells copies. Do you want to sell? It's all like gossip and innuendo. Well, I mean, certainly for a prologue to our biography, it is not overly personal in that sense. I mean, people are not going to find out provocative details about it.
No, I don't think. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. I would like to do, even if one get motifs, then one might continue, but I think the work as it is, it's complete. That's why it took such a long time, this little work.
As you wrote it, did you find out more about why you write? Did it clarify things for you? About what provoked you to sit down at the BBC and write the story? To wait that long, in fact. I mean, you say, in fact, about how being a writer was an image kind of implanted by you or on you even before you would write it all.
There is, I cannot remember the book, but there is a line in it, that thing, which says that it's only while I'm writing now that I'm putting some order into events. That is true.
that reminds me.
I think that was actually said, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was true.
It was a curious thing, too, that I guess I wasn't aware of before about the reason for being a writer. You said something about kind of a search, this is a misquote, paraphrase,
Yes.
but a search for justice to prove that there was
Yes.
some...
Curious thing to
Yeah,
say.
I
yes.
don't quite understand it.
Well, you see, all the things that were read to me by my father, there were stories about things becoming all right, weren't there?
Happy endings?
Not read, not. No, that might be wrong. Although the heroes, the story of Perseus, did have a happy ending. But the fact was that these wicked things were written about. So there was, even in the eye of, even just by the act of writing then, was an act of justice. Or gave one an assurance that there was justice, because these things were noticed. Nothing was just buried. Wickedness wasn't just buried and hidden away. One wrote about it. In the sense of that's what I meant. There was justice. And so to be a writer was to be on the side.
I'm not sure that all writers, or many writers, would subscribe to that.
That's a very private view.
Sure.
And part of my grief as I get old and understand more about the world in which I took all these ideas of nobility. My grief is that the publishing world and the book writing world is an extraordinarily shoddy, dirty, dingy world. That there are probably in London only 3 or 4 publishers whom one has any regard for. The others have the morality and the culture of barrow boys.
Barrow boys?
Yes.
What are barrow boys?
They're street sellers, people pushing rotten apples in the street. You know, the people with these portable markets.
Yeah.
So that's it. I think that I probably overdid the seriousness. I feel this with a kind of grief now. I feel rather foolish. I feel I took it too seriously.
Publishing, you mean, or?
Writing,
Right.
I took it too seriously. I was wrong.
But as
So I was punished for it.
But as a
I was
serious
punished by
occupation, though.
neglect.
Yeah. Of course, it's odd. I mean, I know some of the things that you've gone through, but odd to talk in terms of neglect when you've published, more than a dozen books of various sorts. When you think of other writers who haven't published at all or published one book.
I published 18.
Yeah.
I published 18.
18,
books.
okay. 18 now. See, the count is...
18, and I would stand by
That doesn't
15, and I think about 10 or 12 are quite big books. But when I say neglect,
And that doesn't sound like neglect when you've published 18 and...
I mean having difficult finding an audience for my work, having the work read. You know, a lot of people jump on one now. They think that one is very, an immensely favored writer. But, I have a very small public.
But it's a larger public and you're more favored than when we first talked. It's in the last few years you've certainly...
It probably has grown. It's grown in the last few years, yes. Yes. I wonder why. It's a great miracle that it has suddenly grown in the last 5 or 6 years, hasn't it? Or 7, or probably 6 or 7 years.
People outside might say it's grown because your work has gotten better, which I think is not true. That the level has always been there, and you undoubtedly know the subject may change somewhat. But I think people who don't know the work might say, well, he just got to be a better writer. He's writing about things that we're more interested in.
No, I think what happened is that I lost the obsession with the 2 things. I lost the obsession with the colony, Trinidad, and all that it meant. And also my own obsession with India. I move out of that. Because I think my work probably was, but, probably both subjects are. They did make me. They've made my way of looking, but
at the same time, I think, as we've talked before about somebody like Derek Walcott, what would make him always remain an insular writer is that he was and is writing only about his island experiences and all that. He never went.
Doesn't he move up? Doesn't he write about New York and Boston and things like that?
Well, occasionally, but not. I mean, he still is an island poet. I mean, that's
yes. You see, I couldn't do that because I haven't lived on an island. I left the island before I was 18. I've lived in the world, and
and on this island.
And on this island. And I have links with, Africa and because of my background, I have links with Africa and India and Asia and other parts of the world as well.
Or to leap ahead to the second part of the book, when you went to the Ivory Coast, according to the book, you didn't know about the crocodiles, yet that is the title of the story. It's the motif all the way through. How and why did you choose the Ivory Coast? Why did you pick that part of the world? And did you expect to find something?
I'm discovering something very odd about it. That probably it was lodged in me a long time ago to go. I'm discovering that years and years and years ago, I read Africa Dances by Geoffrey Gora. You know that book?
I don't know the book. No.
It was published by Penguin in 1945, and copies stayed on shelves forever. And it is about French West Africa. Very critical of French, of the French in Africa, as I'm discovering on a rereading. The book has just been reissued in the Penguin Travel Library. So there was that lodged in my mind about that. Then there was this thing about my French teachers at school being black men who they were entranced by the idea of France. And the French language. They'd go to Martinique for their holidays sometimes. The war being on and travel to the metropolis not being possible. And so I developed through that a feeling about French Africa. When you read Geoffrey Gora, the French behaved appallingly in West Africa, according to Geoffrey Gora. So it was a kind of confused thing. There's this reading there. There's this childhood memory of black men being excited by liberal French. And then I suppose the idea of I go back to my roots. I discover other people go back to their roots. I think about my father. Other people have fathers who wish to do things. So the book is full of little, many things like that.
Had you been in West Africa before?
No, I only just passed through Nigeria. It just came to me to go to the Ivory Coast.
The notion was just to go to West Africa and to find...
To go to French Africa.
French Africa.
French Africa.
And to find whatever you would find and write about it, but without any prescription about...
I went with no commission or anything. I just went. And I think one reason why I chose the Ivory Coast, you can go there without a visa. To go to Senegal, you have to get a visa, and that would have prevented me going. Ivory Coast was open. You just got on the aeroplane and went.
And at the point, you didn't have a commission from the New Yorker or anything?
Nothing. I went without any.
Was it in the nature of a revelation when you heard about the president of the whatever, I can't remember the name of the town again, with the crocodiles, when you discovered that story? I mean, is that...
Yes.
That was finding the
And you see what happens is that when a place begins to hold you, you begin to write about it, you begin to make your notes about it, you begin to move like a writer and a traveler. I get awfully wound up. You know, it's like writing a book. You know, or not actually writing the book at the moment, but
Are you taking notes though? Or?
oh yes, yes. But you are controlling your movement, thinking what to do, what to see next, how to do it, and you are processing. You are working very hard on everything you see. I don't know whether you see if most people, when if they're not writers, don't really think too much about what happens. A writer contemplates, reviews, processes, is thoroughly.
But of course, there are different kinds of writers, and I think you make it clear that you don't go as a journalist writer, but as a writer in a sense, in which you aren't going to report on the...
You have to take a long time to discover and find what you've seen, really.
Yeah.
The kind of writing I do.
I mean, it's very curious for me to grasp, because about the same point,
Please.
you suggested that in a sense it was like living a novel. Please, it's like being in a novel.
Yes. Yes.
Which makes you not only the author, but also the
You organize the material,
protagonist in a sense.
and then you are there, and you're seeing you have the eye then is only an actor insofar as he looks and arranges the scenes around himself.
But at the same time, you make a case for the matter of luck, of accidents and things.
Yes.
I mean, I suppose meeting someone passes by the table here, and you hear a word, or they sit down, or whatever, and that might set you on an entirely different...
No. What you must understand is that kind of profound writing, everything then becomes important that happens. Everything.
Everything, the most minor.
Everything has importance. Yes.
I guess what I'm aiming for is to differentiate between your journeys and other people's journeys, and other intelligent people, not necessarily traveling because question of tourism, but going somewhere, as compared to you going somewhere with the idea that I would say it's going to lead to something.
Yes.
If not to an actual work of art, it's going to lead to certain impressions, conclusions.
Well, Mel, all I can say, if you want to understand the way I have moved, you probably should read some very early attempts at traveling. There is the material, there's the man traveling, coming to some conclusion about the place, understanding the society, but yet somehow not able to do it in a literary way. You can read some of my early chapters in the Little Passage. You can read Suriname or something like that.
Yeah.
You get an idea.
Yeah, no, that's
traveling with before one perfected it as a technique, as a literary technique.
Yeah, I would suppose. I mean, I wouldn't declare them as travel writing, but there is certainly a tinge of that in some of the earlier work, which I certainly didn't find in this one. I mean, it never gives guidance to a traveler, but at the same point, it treats the society and the customs and so on in a certain fashion that are not present in this one. I mean, even the fact that you yourself and the people that you meet play such an important part, and conversations are reproduced in someone that it becomes. I think perhaps someone could read the second piece of the book and think it was fiction, if they didn't know that it was.
Yes, and in fact it represents only a perfection of the art of traveling, of literary traveling.
Yeah. Could you say, and you do bring it out in the book, but I'd be curious what you would say now about the linkage between the two journeys.
Well, I begin to think about them more and more myself. I find more and more the French, the themes of sacrifice comes out in both pieces.
And this is the other thing that again, I'm not clear about why. I mean, you had mentioned to me before that it was called Sacrifice in France.
Yes.
But to pick up this vividly colored book, and it says sacrifice, which is such at least in America, certainly so much more of a stronger word than finding the center.
Yes.
Yet obviously you feel there's a...
Well, the theme of sacrifice, and I say in the French thing, not only ritual sacrifice, not only the cultural ambushes of the past, which is the theme in both. The theme of personal sacrifice, the writer's life, my father's life. And then there is a man from the second piece, a family, where the man who becomes a doctor and goes back to Africa to work, lives that life out. There is in the reference to the successful round trip of my grandfather in the prologue, and the unsuccessful round trip of other people in the crocodile pieces. You always have the black people going by way of New York to West Africa, or by way of Paris.
Do you think Sacrifice is a more valid summary, more valid title?
I would have preferred it, but I don't. Many years ago, I decided not to give my books inauspicious titles. I felt I could stand it in French, but not in English. I thought it would be dreadful if I gave it an inauspicious title. So all my titles for the last 12 or 13 years have had slightly triumphant suggestions. Not triumph, but good luck suggestions.
Reaching, finding, grasping.
Yes.
Attaining.
Yes. In a free state, you know.
If not
turning the bend in the river, you know.
If not happy endings, happy titles.
Happy titles.
Or let us
good luck titles.
I would say, if I could contradict it, India, wounded civilization. That's not.
Yes, it's very worrying, eh?
Sure. Gorillas is certainly, to start with that even, that's certainly not very.
That rebounded on me in England, where many people occupied guerrilla positions. Many old friends suddenly became urban guerrillas, you know, gunning me down in street corners. Yes.
No, but certainly it's true of a bend in the river. I mean, that's it, because that becomes like a turning
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
Finding the center that reminded me of that.
Finding the center again has many meanings. The meaning is the center of the narrative. Always important to find the center of a narrative. Find the center, the truth of every experience. They're the two things. Then the center, philosophical center for one's belief. Whether one's African, Indian, writer, you know, it has many meanings.
Reminded me of is it Yeats, that quote about the center cannot hold.
Yes, it was meant to be. It's an inverted reference to that too. It takes it up in a different way. Center cannot hold, and this one is saying that for many people, of course, people find the center does hold them. We're all fairly mad. Oh, incidentally, then I discovered about 7 or 8 nights ago, reading the Jeffrey Gora. He's talking about some African tribe in West Africa. And he's saying they're the early primitive Negroes. He uses the word right through, incidentally, Negro. He uses it all the time. He's a man of great left things, but this is the way people spoke those days. He said they're the only primitive people he's met who are not mad. And then he broke off to explain, and by that I mean whose thought processes a European can follow. When you can't follow them, then they're mad. That's something he says he will write about later. But this frankness about madness, the madness of primitive people, is interesting. But the other thing is, I think, of course, to primitive men, we are mad too. The way.
But I was going to say that.
Why don't you read? I think the thing about the links will become clearer if you read probably Anthony Pearl. He saw some of them. And as I said, many of them occur only because the second piece is written out of the mood of the first.
I think some people in America anyway might be surprised and feel that the second piece was a more sympathetic view of a third world situation than hitherto.
That's a political judgment.
That hitherto they found in your work.
That's a political judgment. Because if you're looking for a political comment, well then it's not a good political comment either on a country, is it? What is said there?
No.
I think it's not a political piece. People read my work too politically.
Well, that's why I just wondered whether to anticipate.
If you read the piece as a political piece, then of course there's nothing in it. There's no interview with any politician. There's nothing. It's not a political piece.
Well, it isn't in that sense, but it would have a reaction towards a political situation. Some assessment made of the leadership and the success of a community. And I was going to say that to anticipate some of the American reaction, I suppose people might think in a strange way, you may not like the word, but they might think of it as a certain degree a mellowing of your cynicism.
Oddly enough, you see, if you read it politically, then from that point of view, you will see that the Ivory Coast is heading for chaos.
Along with every other country.
Yes, you see that even through its success, and from our point of view, the point of view of institutions and law, and industry and wealth.
It's just that as you described it, it didn't seem half-made in the sense of your observations on other countries of Africa and Asia. Maybe I misread that, but it seemed to me that not that it was fully made, but it was somewhere between half-made and fully made.
The French were doing it for them, you see. The French were running the modern country for them.
And setting the tone.
French were, and there was this whole African world which was surviving within, protected by this modern structure.
It doesn't mean at all that you've changed your own attitudes towards emergent societies and so on. And
I have no attitudes towards
no attitudes.
Mel. I have no attitudes.
That's what I thought.
I have no views. I don't have views. This is the thing that used to torment me as a young man. I had no views.
But you have opinions. Opinions coalesce into views, don't they? Isn't it?
I have no system.
And you haven't found one yet?
No.
You're not looking for one?
No. Something else I've talked about and found an echo in Anthony Pearl. And if you are interested, you might just talk to him about these odd points. I said somewhere that when I went to Oxford, I was surprised to find young men of my own age, 18, having pronounced views about food. They didn't like this, they didn't like that. Whereas I just did what I was asked to do. I ate what was given me. I had no views. I didn't even know whether I didn't like this or didn't like that. I didn't even know what good food was.
But you know now.
I know now.
You know what good food, what good wine, and what good education is. I mean, in fact, you have great antagonisms towards Oxford, for example. I mean, that you may not have had when you arrived, but you can't. I mean, maybe these things developed just later. Is that? I mean, I can't accept the idea about not having a system, but you certainly have stronger opinions.
I have appetites
than many people.
I have reactions.
Okay.
I have very strong reactions. My reactions are, I would say, they are unnaturally violent. And it is out of this extraordinary violence of reaction I've always written. Because if the day I stop feeling very strongly, I will not be able to do any writing. And writing comes through, as it were, working through that very strong emotion, considering that strong, not just recording it raw.
Right.
But you know, that emotion plunges one into some attempt to come to terms with what has so irritated one.
Well, I would say that's a basic difference between taking a journey as a journalist and taking a journey as a writer. We could differentiate. That quite often the journalist is there just to act as kind of a filter, sponge it all in and then put it down. Where clearly, it's a very different process that you're.
I have to think a lot, and the oddity about all of this is, from this travel writing, is that the actual experience doesn't alter. It is just the way what one sees in it.
You mean whether you were a journalist or a tourist, it would be the same experience?
No, I'm thinking that here, I'm traveling in the Ivory Coast. The actual experience, what happened in the course of the days, doesn't alter. What takes all my time is understanding what happened during those days. So I might say I went and had dinner there, and then I reacted, people behaving strangely. That's all my note might be. And it's taken me a long time to understand exactly what I meant.
Does that understanding come? It doesn't come at that moment, then. I mean,
No.
This is a little later.
Oh no, it comes later. It comes with the writing. That's why the writing takes time.
How long after that journey did you write?
I began writing a couple of months after the journey. It was done very slowly. Very, very slowly. An immensely hard piece of writing. It was even harder than the first.
Why so?
The words, the rhythm to do this thing about being true to one's experience, being true then to what one has learned about. And making it hold together. It takes a lot of writing. Let me look. Let me show you. Oh, you know, all of that, the shaping of all of that, really. All of that. The way Yamasukro is introduced and all of that. It doesn't violate the actual occurrences, but to write it, to give the proportions to it.
Was there a point when you thought about writing it as fiction, not as nonfiction? Or will you in fact write it as fiction after having written it as nonfiction? What's the relationship between them?
No, I'll write it like this. I think this is the form for this, because it's too particular. The material is too special. To set it up as fiction, you'd have to make it too extraordinary. Do you understand? Fiction deals with what is easily imaginable, what is within the bounds of one's fantasy. Non-fiction deals more easily with what lies outside that. So, you know, all of that took days of writing. You see that sentence? Oh, that kind of sentence takes a long time to write. That? You know, it takes a lot of thought there. This is what consumes me. And then write that paragraph. I really can exhaust one after writing that paragraph, which is at the end of the opening section. You see? It isn't something you just do and then carry on. It's something you have to wind yourself up to do. It's a matter of thought and emotion. And always the truth. Is always constrained by the truth. No, it's
This part I just marked here was about journeys. No, I said I missed it. What about why you take your journeys?
Yes,
Was
yes.
very pivotal.
That was much referred to here in the interviews here. Yes, and that it represents the truth. It represents the truth.
It was the next one.
I travel to discover other states of mind. Yes.
That's something you've always felt? I mean, felt for...
As I wrote the thing, I worked it out. It's one of these things where I'm sitting to... What am I writing? This is part of my writing. I'm explaining the I of this. I'm explaining the narrator. Explaining the traveler. But having done it here, I can't do it in any other piece. It's been done now. The bit about the writer being his own, being at the center.
Where is it here? When my curiosity has been satisfied, when there are no more surprises, the intellectual adventure is over, and I'm anxious to... How do you know when it's... When you're satisfied?
I know. Things repeat, time for me to go away.
And it could be a short stay or a long stay. I mean, it isn't...
Yes, I will tell you exactly the length of stays I've had in various places. I did... I think I did Martinique in 1961. In about 10 days. I think I did Mauritius in 10 days. The most difficult place from the point of view of understanding for me was Argentina in 1972. It took all of 6 weeks.
I would have thought that your longest stays would have been India, though.
Yes, but that was the first one was 13 months.
Yeah.
That was a long period of travel. But I'd given up the idea of writing a book about India after being in it. I was just traveling in India. I went there and took money in order to write a book. But then while I was there, I was so distressed by what I saw. And it was so repetitive that I thought there was no book to write. So I gave up the idea of the book. And then I began to write the book several months after coming back to England.
Where haven't you been? What journeys are yet to be taken? Far East?
No, I would like, it has to be something related to me, I would like to go to some land connected with the Spanish conquest of South America, Spanish conquest of Central or South America. I would like to look at that.
And you haven't yet, have you?
I haven't done that. To me, the Spanish conquest is one of these unavenged crimes. Very strongly.
I guess the closest would have been your El Dorado book, I suppose, but that was mostly research, library research.
Yes. I would like to do one about the Indians and yes. Mel, has all this helped? Any of this helped you at all?
Yes, it's helping. It is. Yeah.
Is it clear, or can I be clearer? Should I talk more clearly to you about some problems?
Still not quite clear. I don't want to go on too long about it, but about the linkage between the early autobiography or the prelude autobiography and the later work. And I do wonder about the whole middle period, whether it necessarily means that eventful, life-changing things haven't happened to you in the middle. Obviously they have, as I'm saying this, of course they have. I mean,
yeah, but I'm not writing about myself in that way. Mm-hmm. I'm writing, my subject there is, it's a prologue to that, all of one's writing life. It's a prologue to being a writer. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean, really.
would you ever write about that middle part? I mean, in terms of the writing, putting aside the personal revelations, let's say, in terms of the writers.
I don't think that my life has been interesting enough. I think that I've converted that experience into books. You see?
That reminds me, some years ago, one of my first correspondences with Samuel Beckett.
Yes.
At that point, must have been almost 10 years ago, I suggested writing a biography of him. He sent me back a note, I think a standard response to all potential biographers,
Yeah.
which said, nothing whatever of interest has happened in my life.
Yes.
I can be of no assistance whatsoever to
Yes.
a biographer.
Yes.
And I thought, someone with the genius of Beckett, so much has happened in his life, in which maybe he hasn't,
Yes.
in a very sort of normal way,
Yes.
gone through extraordinary events.
Yes.
But certainly in his interior emotional life, I mean, wondrous things have happened.
Yes.
And I was just thinking in terms of your life, that obviously the beginning of your writing is not the end of the shaping of the writing, that things happened after your Miguel Street stories, and many, many changes went on.
Of course. If they didn't, one would not become a writer. One isn't just given a block of material until become a writer with that.
Well, I was just saying, even taking, as we discussed before, the turning point when you stopped writing in a, shall we say, using a bad word, but writing in a regional way, and began opening up,
Yes.
world vision, to coin another cliche.
But I stopped that very soon, really.
Yeah.
I became extra regional from about 1962. A long time ago. No. What happened is that some writers can only deal with the childhood experience because it's complete. Another kind of writer is that life goes on, and he's able to keep on processing that as well. You see? So that had to happen.
Yeah.
But the point is that at that stage, one is really writing. One is using the material then in various ways in one's work. And then the things that happen to one, really, one is just writing books, or not writing books, or haggling with Andre Deutsch, or you know, things like that. It becomes a writer's life, which you spend your days then writing.
Just a point, have you ever thought about writing a book about that? I mean, not just haggling with Andre Deutsch, but a book about the literary life, the writer's life. I mean, as a subject, is that something that?
No, I haven't. I think I feel it doesn't bear contemplation, the shoddiness of the literary work.
Do you feel it also about the American literary world? It's not.
I know very little of it.
Years ago, you used to write reviews.
Yes.
Remember,
Yes. And wonderful days, and I had such a romantic idea of the nobility of the craft.
Of the review writing craft?
No, the whole writing.
The writing craft.
The whole writing business. I remember being shocked. I was in 1961. I was 29. Hearing about a man who wants to write a book that's going to become a property. How dare he have this attitude to writing? That was what a fool.
The purity of writing.
Yes. And in fact, this is how most people think. Publishers, agents, writers.
Do they still want properties from you? Or that?
No, nobody wants any properties from me. No.
They let you just...
I'm not that kind of... no, I think I'm not that kind of person.
The Flag on the Island was the last.
That came just in time, really. I was able to... I needed some money rather badly at the time. It came just in time.
Actually, I'm half wondering why they didn't want to tackle a 12-part series based on Biswas, for example. with all the,
Who would do it? Who would do it?
oh, the BBC or something.
Yes. It'd be very difficult, wouldn't it? Very difficult.
Well, just as they've now done the Raj Quartet, and I gather that
Yes.
very well here.
But that's really about Europeans and English people in India, which is much more very English subject. They wouldn't be interested in the other things.
But you are tempted by that notion, or not? I mean, about
It will have nothing to do with me. I wouldn't be involved with it.
Did you watch the Raj Quartet, by the way?
I just watched one episode.
Did you ever read him? Do you know? Sure.
Will the Times pay for this?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'm delighted.
Tell
You
me
see how modest it is?
That's
Let me see. I'll tell you. You're giving a card.
You're giving a card.
Yes.
That certainly
What you
is.
must add to it is a service charge. Because there's no service. There's only service on the drink, which is the Perrier we have. So if you give £2, very very lovely.
So add it on.
Better give it in notes so they can collect it without trouble.
Okay, that's good.
Isn't it beautifully priced?
It was very.
It's very very modestly priced. Very modestly priced.
Tell me some more about why it's so shoddy, though.
The literary world.
Literary world.
Most English publishers are like barrow boys. They're not innovative publishers. They're not people who deal in writers and manuscripts. They're people who go to the American market, the American street market, and try to pick up whatever rags they think they come and flog in there and hang up and dress up in their own little... Aren't they like that?
I don't know.
Oh, very... It's not in the days... they're not Macmillans any longer. They're really just people dealing in rags. They're rag. It's a kind of rag trade. They don't read, and they're dealing in rags. I think it's better supermarkets are better culturally and less pretentious than English publishing.
Do the literary journals and critics keep tabs on them, you say? Do they act as a repressant at all, or
Literary journals?
yeah, literary journals, are they the watchdog at all of this shoddy publishing?
They're very good. By and large, they do a good job.
Do they?
I think critics on our papers do a good job. I think that we've now got a whole new generation, young fellows, and our standard is very high here. I do think a paper like The Spectator must be one of the finest things in the English language, don't you think?
I don't read it.
It's a very nice paper, very nice paper. It comes out once a week, it's very quirky, individualistic, and very amateurish inside, but people are writing. Probably one will get tired of it, but it's wonderful. And
How is TLS these days?
I don't see it, I don't know what's happening.
The Times itself has just gone way downhill, I think. I feel every day I pick it up, I could feel Murdoch's influence in the news coverage and the
Yes.
lead stories about his lottery that he's running.
Yes.
But this is the non-literary side of it. But
Yes. It's all that's very bad, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's all very bad.
I was just reading about this literary contest in the papers the other day about the award going to a romantic novel.
Yes, there's a crazy lady who left some money.
Trask was her name, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, she lived in great poverty and shocked her by leaving some money, and to establish a prize for literary for the romantic novel.
the prize that you're never going to win, right?
I don't know. One might one day. One might. Why not?
Why not? Well, she didn't leave any definitions of what.
Exactly. Anything might be romantic. You know.
Well, have you ever written a romantic novel? Let's think of that. Any of your novels?
I think a lot of my early work was romantic, and that's part of my trouble. I was a bit too gentle. Should have been brutal, really.
But you wouldn't want to rewrite Biswas, for example.
No, wouldn't want to rewrite anything. No.
But in any case, I think people are probably across England now are going to be trying to determine what a young 20-year-old novelist is going to say. Well, maybe I should make this one more romantic, and then I'll be eligible for the.
And it will become one of these definitions. What is romantic? Does it only mean the boy meets girl, or the nurse love story, or?
Well, I was just.
Does it imply an attitude to the world?
I was just one of several judges in a contest to discover a well-made play. Another phrase, I don't know what that means, a well-made play. I mean, I guess it literally means has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yes,
but I mean, all plays eventually have
they
that.
They have to have that. They have to have that, yes.
I mean, Waiting for Godot has, in fact, a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, it's a well-made play, I guess, but not by the measure of this contest, which had mostly family plays that end in some quarrelsome conclusion.
But what should we do now? You think we'll talk later before you go away?
I think we should talk again sometime, yes.
Let's talk after you. What will you do? You'll run this through and play this back?
I'll probably listen to some of it.
And you read the reviews?
Read the reviews, yes.
From Deutsch? Mm-hmm. They have them all there.
Okay, well,
the girl Helen will...
What's her name? Helen, you say it?
Helen Ellis.
Now, are you going to be in London still, or are you going
I'll be in London or the country. You have both numbers, don't you?
Okay. Because maybe we could sit down again and talk. Will you be coming in next week at all, do you think? Or I'll just be here this week and next week. That's the only...
Well, fine. We'll arrange something. You will do this, and if you have things that you really want to make more concrete as possible, then we might try it. You're going to make it more interesting. Think of your piece, you know.
Have you read or seen anything lately that you've been interested in? Novels, plays, whatever?
I read a lot of old stuff.
Balzac still.
I haven't read Balzac recently. What have I been reading? I've been reading Oscar Wilde, De Profundis, Second-Rate Man, What a Discovery. Second-rate thriller.
Haven't read it in a long time.
The Importance, of course, is wonderful. But the whole man, reading stuff from the bottom of the soul, shocking. Talk about art, nonsense, and all that. That letter to De Profundis is a letter to Lord Alfred Douglas, as you know. You know.